Week 18 of the NFL season, and it's always an interesting one. Week 18, we got a lot of weird injury situations with teams holding players out to rest for the playoffs, other teams just playing young guys because they want to get a chance to look at them before we head into the offseason. So it creates all kinds of unique and weird value situations. We're going to hit on them in this Owner's Box video, looking at some of the top lineups that I've built in the Sims tool and the contest trainer for Stochastic for the Owner's Box main slate on Sunday. And then we'll also go position by position, see which players I'm getting the most exposure to at each spot. If you guys haven't signed up at Owner's Box, use the link we have below, and that's going to get up to a $500 bonus on your first deposit there. And then also, if you could be so kind, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's go ahead and look at the lineups I've built here, starting with the one that is the highest overall simulated ROI, and it is a double stack of the Cowboys and the Bears. So SuperFlex setting over at Owner's Box, and we have Dak Prescott combined with Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb on one side. The other end of the game, it is Justin Fields paired with DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. So those are the two double stacks that we have in this lineup. And then rounding out, we have Jordan Mason, Christian Kirk, and Ronnie Bell in this lineup. So different players that have value for different reasons. Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey, not playing week 18. Elijah Mitchell is officially questionable to play. We do not have him in our projections. We are assuming that Mitchell sits. If Mitchell ends up playing, it would change the value equation on Jordan Mason. But at least for now, we're expecting Mason to be the guy for the 49ers. Christian Kirk, he's just underpriced everywhere. So what happened with Christian Kirk is that he was not expected to play the rest of the regular season. So we saw DraftKings, we saw Owner's Box really aggressively price down Christian Kirk, and now all of a sudden he's playing week 18, which just means he's well underpriced relative to where he was when he was last healthy. And then Ronnie Bell, another player from the 49ers who's benefiting from the rest situation. So Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, not expected to play. That makes Ronnie Bell one of the top wide receiver values of the entire slate. So that is our number one projected lineup by simulated ROI here in the set of lineups that I built out in the Sims. But now let's go position by position in the exposures, starting with quarterback and seeing what we're getting to the most of there. And at QB, keep in mind, it is super flex. So if you're wondering, how do you have more than 100% exposure to the total of the quarterbacks? It's because we could play two quarterbacks in one lineup here over on Owner's Box. But overall, the QBs that I'm getting the most of, so we've got a handful of guys here that we've got 20+% owned, and then also Nick Mullins in 18.8% of lineups. But the core QBs we're getting to here, Geno Smith, Jake Browning, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Derek Carr. So those are guys, and kind of a mix too, right? Because we've got Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. These are stud QBs with something to play for. And then we've got guys like Derek Carr, does have something to play for, but has a bad offense around him. And then we've also got somebody like Jake Browning, backup, still the Bengals with something to pay for. And then Geno Smith, also the Seahawks, with something to play for. So the reason that something to play for kind of matters for this week is because we could be confident that those players are going to play the entire game, where you consider a team like the Lions, who are expected to start their starters on Sunday, but with nothing to play for, can we be confident they're going to play the whole game? Not so much, which does make it hard for me to invest my dollars on lineups that are including players from a team like the Lions. It doesn't mean Geno Smith is guaranteed to play better because the Seahawks have something to play for, but it does mean we can feel good about him playing the entire game, which we can't say about every team and their players in other situations. So those are the quarterback exposures we have. If we go ahead and look at the running backs, Jordan Mason touched on that situation at the top. As long as Elijah Mitchell is out, Mason's going to handle, in all likelihood, a massive workload for the 49ers. He's a good guy to get to. Tony Pollard, he is also a pay-up running back who makes sense to me. Good matchup for the Cowboys against the Washington Commanders, a game that the Cowboys, if they win, they're going to secure this 2 seed overall in the NFC. So still something to play there for the Cowboys. Alvin Kamara, listed as questionable, has been practicing. We'll see what ends up happening. Kamara seems like there's a pretty good chance he ends up sitting, but we'll have more official word on that later on today. If he is out, we've got Keandre Miller, who could end up stepping in and playing a bigger role, though he hasn't played in a significant amount of time. Jamal Williams would most likely be the starting running back, but Kamara's questionable, Miller's questionable. Both of them are out. Jamal Williams would really stand out for the Saints. And then Zamir White, another guy who's been super chalky the last couple of weeks. He's come through in the absence of Josh Jacobs. Jacobs sitting again in week 18. Another start coming for Zamir White. Core plays at wide receiver. We have Christian Kirk, just underpriced across the industry now that he's returned from the injured reserve a little bit earlier than expected. Demario Douglas, it's hard to feel great about the passing game for the Patriots because the quarterbacks are terrible, but it seems that whether it's been Bailey Zappi or whether it's been Mac Jones at quarterback, they really have honed in on Demario Douglas, who's seen quite a bit of targets over the last few weeks. So with him being at a relatively cheap price tag, he is a good value play. Ronnie Bell, good value play as well, just because of the 49ers resting guys. And this enables us to pay up for a bunch of wide receivers because with the value we're getting at running back, with some of the value with cheap wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, we could build some star-studded lineups. This is a great slate to go stars and scrubs, and that's why we're getting a lot more exposure to star wide receivers than would otherwise normally be possible on a typical NFL slate. Now let's round this out by looking at the tight end core plays at OwnersBox for the weekend, and that is Trey McBride, Evan Ingram, Dallas Goedert, Jake Ferguson. So a lot of the tight ends that pair with the QBs we're getting to, but then also just some of the better tight ends. Other thing of note here is that for a lot of the season, we've had to build some double tight end lineups in order to find value on some of these slates. That is not the case at all for week 18. I hardly get to any lineups that have double tight ends because there is so much value at running back and wide receiver. So at tight ends, we feel good about just playing the better guys on the slate like McBride, Ingram, Dallas Goedert, Jake Ferguson. So that's going to do it for me. Don't forget, if you haven't checked out OwnersBox yet, it is SuperFlex. So you can play lineups with two quarterbacks. Don't have to worry about defenses. And if you sign up using the link we have below, up to a $500 bonus on your first deposit. So go check it out, guys. Have a great end of the NFL regular season. And of course, we'll be back here covering the playoffs next week. So good luck this weekend.